time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Indeed, and great to have you with us on this Thursday edition of the show. Where'd the week go already? It's already Thursday. It's day one of the Masters. Got a kind of a Masters-related question to get to and something to consider a little later on. And it's Thursday, and that can only mean one thing. David Aardsma is here, former big league reliever, our closer, our MLB guy. We love talking baseball with him every week on the show. He will swing by, and we'll get some thoughts with him. Some NFL to get to. Tyreek Hill, and it's not really great news. Kind of a disturbing story, I guess you could say. We'll get to that coming up as well, but we start things out in the NBA. Sam Yarnell, ladies and gentlemen, he is here with one eye on the Masters and a jacket apparently to support the cause. You said you were gonna bring the Masters gear today, and there it is. You got your Masters zip up on. That's actually pretty nice. Some nice swag you got there. Where'd you get that?
Yeah, thanks. Well, there's only one place that you can get Masters apparel, and it's at the Masters. So last year I had somebody pick it up for me.
Oh, okay. I thought that story was going to end with you saying you were at the Masters.
That would be pretty cool. Unfortunately not.
Well, we're going to talk about that a little later on and something to consider. But we start things out in the NBA, Sam, because last night it was revenge night for Luka Doncic, and he served it up cold. 45 in a win for the Lakers on the road against the Mavericks. And it all started with the ceremony before the game. With the Mavericks doing a great job with the scoreboard presentation and showing the best of his career. And you saw the emotions sort of pouring out of Luka Doncic. By the way, Skip Bayless, stop being a troll. Just because the guy was emotional doesn't mean he doesn't want to play with the Lakers. I mean, come on. He grew up in Dallas with the Mavericks. Those were his most formative years as a player, and you're knocking him because he's crying and has tears in his eyes watching the tribute on the Jumbotron there. But he went out and he was able to compartmentalize, and he basically put together his best game of the season, Sam Yarnell.
Yeah, it was a storybook performance out of Luka Doncic. Obviously a really emotional moment before the game with him, breaking down, tearing up, before he ran out onto the court. I thought it was really cool. This is going to sound so stupid, but one thing that I kind of, as a diehard Washington Nationals fan who constantly has to watch former players of his own team come back and play against his team, I always find it funny how generally PA announcers don't do what the Mavericks PA announcer did last night. And I thought it was really cool that when he announced Luka's name, he did it in, the same voice and tone as if he were still on the Mavericks. Really niche thing, but it doesn't happen enough in sports when, players are revisiting teams that they grew up with. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. It was kind of interesting in this game because as much as it was about Luka, and in the early stage of this game, I think he had like 30 in the first half. It looked like he might go off for a 50 burger or maybe even 60. As good as Luka was, the second half of this game was about LeBron. And he really picked it up and sort of ran with it in the second half. And then you got some Luka at the end. And it was sort of the blueprint for, what the Lakers hope this thing is going to look like, when they get to the postseason. A lot of Fire Nico chants throughout the game. And it almost felt like Mike Breen was uncomfortable with it because he kept kind of mentioning it, but not really wanting to talk about it. And I wonder if Nico Harrison was even there at the end of this game because they weren't even showing. They showed him in like the middle of the game and early on. They weren't even showing him at the end of the game when they were chanting Fire Nico, which makes me wonder if he was like, I'm out of here. I'm just going to avoid all of this.
Yeah, it's tough. Obviously, it's a tough situation that he was put in. I mean, do I disagree with the fans? I'm never going to sit here and say I disagree with fans, but at the end of the day, I think that the point has been made, and there's not really anything you can do to go back and undo it. And, As much as they may want Nico Harrison fired, the fact of the matter is he's a GM that got your team to the finals last year, right? Like he knows how to build a team. He knows how the NBA works. And quite frankly, if you do listen to the fans and fire him, who are you bringing in that door that's any better? Respectfully, who Dallas Mavericks are you bringing through that door who is any better when in the last, what, half a decade, you've had your most famous owner leave, and really the only piece left from the championship days of the late 2000s, right? He's gone, right? And now your cornerstone franchise player is also gone, right? So you've got one option, Dallas, and that's rally around the Mavericks and try to get something going, because we know there's a lot of talent on that team. Kyrie Irving is one of 2 players in NBA history who averages 25 or more points in a Dallas Mavericks uniform. I mean, come on.
I agree with you, and I'll also say this: as much as this year has been a buzzkill because of the Kyrie injury and the trading of Luka, I still feel like this franchise is positioned well in the West. I love Jason Kidd. I have no doubt that he is the right person to lead this team. They play hard for him. How many teams would have rolled over with all of the injuries that team sustained? Mm-hmm. They could barely put a team on the court for weeks.
And they're still going to make the play-in.
They'll probably still make the play-in.
They are. They clinched a play-in berth yesterday. They are going to make the play-in.
Did Sacramento lose? Because Sacramento lost to Denver, yeah.
They are going to. They have a shot to be in the dance.
The playoffs, yeah.
I don't know what else you could ask for.
Yeah, I agree. So I'm a Jason Kidd guy. I think he's done a fantastic job with that team. Anthony Davis, when he's on the floor, is still really good. Although I will say, he was noticeably absent from that game last night. I expected more out of him. On a night where they were sort of celebrating Luka, I thought he'd come out and play one of his better games. And he was kind of flat. I think he had like 4. I don't know what he finished with, but he only had like 4 points at the half. He had like 4 points, 5 rebounds in the first half. Didn't play his best game. So that was a little disconcerting from that standpoint, but nothing but love from the fans. Much deserved for Luka Doncic, who now finds himself, with this Lakers team. And I'll also say this about the performance from Luka last night. He shot the 3 well. And since getting to the Lakers, doesn't feel like he shot it all that well from beyond the 3-point line. Maybe this is the game that gets him going in the right direction. Are we going to be able to peel you away from the Masters today? Are we going to be able to peel you away? Because all I see is you looking at the TV. Are we going to be able to peel you away?
Of course not.
We're coming back. We got Tyreek Hill to talk about, and it's not good news for the Dolphins receiver. Welcome back to Sports Wrap. Coming up in 10 minutes, David Aardsma, our former MLB reliever, our closer on the show. Get some thoughts with him on all things Major League Baseball. We had an interesting conversation on yesterday's show regarding Paul Skenes after he had his worst outing as a major leaguer, giving up 5 runs in 6 innings to the Cardinals. And Sam brought up his concerns because of how big Paul Skenes is, worried about potential injuries. So I thought we'd get David Aardsma on, as we do every Thursday, to talk about that and a whole host of other items. Later on in the show, a thought that kind of goes in place with what's going on with the Masters. I was watching the par 3 contest yesterday. Made me think of this. We'll talk about that as well. But Sam Yarnell, the Miami Dolphins cannot be happy with the news that came out yesterday out of Florida concerning their star wide receiver, the Cheetah, Tyreek Hill. So the reports that are out there is that Tyreek Hill and his wife, who I believe just served him with divorce papers on Tuesday, that Tyreek Hill and his wife were involved in a domestic dispute at his home on Monday. Now, the most important thing to mention, maybe the most important thing to mention, is no charges were filed, Sam. But according to a police report, officers responded to a call from Hill's mother-in-law, who told them Hill was very aggressive and impulsive, that she was afraid for her daughter. And that was a quote. According to Hill's mother-in-law, Hill and his wife, Kita Vaccaro, got into an argument, and he threw her laptop to the floor before grabbing their 4-month-old daughter and went out to the balcony of their 35th floor apartment. That doesn't sound good either. Police responded. They said they had been attending couples therapy because of their arguments. But they said the wife had said she's in the midst of filing for divorce. She said the argument began when Hill said he was not involved enough, or she had told Hill he was not involved enough in their daughter's life. The big part here is, did it get physical? And that is what the NFL is certainly going to be looking at when they examine and investigate this. Hill and Vaccaro told officers it was not physical, but officers noted a visible bruise on Vaccaro's chest. And she said she probably sustained the bruise when Hill took their daughter at the beginning of their argument and described it as an accident. Now, listen, you don't get a bruise from somebody tearing a kid out of your arms, okay? Be that as it may, the NFL's obviously going to look into this. It's not the first time we've heard of run-ins with Tyreek Hill in these sorts of situations, Sam. And it's got to be a bit cringy if you're the Dolphins and you see this.
Yeah, so I know that we in the journalism world are supposed to use words like alleged and all that kind of stuff. I'll just give you my opinion. We'll say that this is all my opinion. Tyreek Hill is one of the worst human beings in existence today. One of the worst people in America. Certainly in my mind. Probably top 20, I'd definitely say top 2% of all bad people who are outside of jail making millions of dollars. This man is a despicable human being, and I have no respect for the man. As a man, I have no respect for that man. I hope someday he sees this because, brother, on site if you want it. Let me take you back to 2014 because at this point, this is a repeated, demonstrable history of Tyreek Hill doing this to women who are either bearing or have already had his child. 2014, just years after Tyreek Hill, maybe the next year after Tyreek Hill was in community college, he was at Oklahoma State because they took a chance on him. And what happened? He physically hit a woman named Crystal Espinal. At the time, that was Hill's girlfriend, who was bearing his child. It was so bad, he was immediately kicked off of the Oklahoma State football team and had to bounce around until eventually the Chiefs, we know their history with players, took a chance on him in the 5th or 6th round. We are talking about a guy who was widely regarded as a first-round talent, falling 4 or 5 rounds because of an incident and only being taken by a team who has shown us in the past that they really don't care what you do off the field. They only care what you do on the field. Then you'll remember this happened again while he was in the NFL. By the way, back to that 2014 incident, because I do think this is an interesting part to mention. Hill originally pled not guilty. Then he couldn't pay his lawyer enough, so he got another lawyer, and when that new lawyer came in, immediately pled guilty, right? Just think that that's important to mention. Fact of the case, go look it up yourself. Obviously, he's had other run-ins. Jason alluded to almost all of them. But what I think is important, and this is a hypothetical, right? Hypothetically, if a large-scale, multi-famous, professional athlete, multi-millionaire, we're in a relationship with someone trying to start a family, hypothetically, and then this entire assault, hypothetically, took place, hypothetically, then hypothetically, you could understand why one of the people, maybe not the professional athlete, again, hypothetically, in this hypothetical situation, would not want to press charges, because guess what, folks? It's a whole hell of a lot harder to pay alimony from inside a jail cell than it is from outside a jail cell. So I'm just saying this. Tyreek Hill has way more power than a person as, in my opinion, horrible, despicable, crust of the earth, worst human being that you could create deserves to have.
So do they trade him?
No, if the NFL
really, you don't think the Dolphins?
Any sort of PR disaster coming from any sort of distance away, he's done playing professional.
No, but I'm asking, do the Dolphins? I mean, look, we know he's been the subject of all these trade rumors. He said after the season he basically didn't want to be there. Then he kind of took that back. So I'm just wondering, can they even trade him if they want to? Because now the situation is becoming so toxic, not just on the field and what he's saying after games, but what happens off the field. I just wonder if they could even trade him if they wanted to.
If they did, and then he were given a lifetime ban by the league after he were traded, that's a franchise redeeming move for Miami.
Has he ever been suspended by the league, though? Do you remember? Yeah,
I have it here. I can look, but we're going to the break.
Yeah, I know. Because I don't know if he's ever been suspended by the league, so I think a lifetime ban's kind of hard to imagine. They'd have to do something before that. We're coming back with David Aardsma. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sports Wrap on this Thursday. Great to have you all with us. Let's do some baseball for a couple of segments. My man David Aardsma is here. There he is. Mr. Hip Thruster himself. Inside joke. For those wondering what we're talking about, David recently had hip replacement surgery. So we're trying to protect David from himself right now is what we're trying to do, because David likes to work out and he did a little too much.
And I'm feeling it.
And you're feeling it. There you
right
go.
On the incision.
Well, apparently Mike Tauchman is feeling it, because I don't know if you guys saw this, but you have the Guardians and White Sox, ninth inning, and here's a ground ball base hit through the left side, and Mike Tauchman can't make it home. He pulls up lame with a hamstring injury after one run scored, and the White Sox lose to the Guardians 3-2 in about the most agonizing way, both literally and physically, that you can lose a game. Have you ever seen anything like that, David?
Never seen anything like that. That is that the most White Sox way to lose a game right now? Yeah. Is that sums up the White Sox the last two seasons? It's got to be so frustrating. You're doing everything right now. I don't know if he's going to score. That's the thing. It was a well hit ball to left. It wasn't slow, wasn't really hard, but the left fielder was on it. Like on it. I don't know if he scores anyways. God, that's got to be hard.
Sam's loving his under bet. What'd you have, under 14.5 for the first month? What was it?
Yeah. I mean, free money. Come on. Under 14.5 wins by the end of April.
There you go.
It's April 10th. They're at 2. I think we're good.
Oh, don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Was that a real bet?
Yeah, they were actually offering David lines on every team. All 30 teams, their wins by the end of April. DraftKings Sportsbook was. I actually made a lot of money on it last year with the White Sox, so I figured, hey, let's not change anything up, right? The team's still bad. Let's just go back to the old well, and it's looking good so far. David, on the subject of kind of these bottom feeding teams, and maybe a little bit of a warmer note, a team that's actually not in last in their division, which may be to the chagrin of many baseball fans, especially those in the NL East. The Washington Nationals just took 2 or 3 from the Los Angeles Dodgers, and you're funny if you thought that I was going to let that happen without talking to you about it. In that third game, they lose by a run, but they held the lead for the majority of the game. Tell me, these Nationals' young arms have looked good this season between Jake Irvin, Mitchell Parker. Obviously, Mackenzie Gore has made storylines since opening day. David, do you think when we have a young staff that kind of contributes in this way and all comes onto the scene at once, it speaks more to scouting and development, or development? Is it the coaching, or is it the people who signed them?
Ooh, that's a great question. Now, at the same time, it has to go with both, and there's three-headed monster here. The scouting side, obviously, you have to find the talent. You have to see the kid, see the talent, see that they can progress mentally, physically, go on. The development actually has to follow through with it and hit that ground running. But when they get to the big leagues, that is a monster all in it within its own. Like, you can find the player, you can find that they're talented, you can develop them, But when they get there, you have to then go to that graduate class, right? Graduations, like you have to then take that next step, even though you're good and you're talented, all that wonderful stuff, and we developed you. That big leagues, it's a totally another monster. And they've done an incredible job of taking that talent, developing it, and then getting them to the big leagues and trusting themselves. Because we've seen it before. We've seen a lot of teams bring up a lot of young talent, and then they go and they struggle in the big leagues for 4 years, and then all of a sudden, like, they're the Marlins again. Basically. But this Nationals team has done an amazing job. One, that trade with Soto is just, God, that set their organization up to rebuild. And they've been able to take those players and continue that at the big league level, which was amazing. And so you have to give a lot of credit to the big league staff. It's one thing to be able to take a lot of talent and develop it on the minor league side, but once you get to the big leagues, actually continue doing that. And that's what we've seen with them. And another name to go out there, I know go a little left field here, but Hunter Green, that's another name where you got to see, like, this kid at the big league level, we've watched him learn and develop, and you have to give credit there.
Let me ask you about another pitcher since you mentioned Hunter Green. Let's talk about Paul Skenes, because Sam and I invoked your name yesterday in a conversation after he gave up 5 runs in 6 innings in a loss to the Cardinals, his worst outing yet as a major league starter. And as Sam pointed out, if that's the worst and we're going crazy about 5 runs in 6 innings, we know how good this guy is. But Sam brought up the idea that he was worried because his concern is he's so big that he's going to potentially be injury prone. So I texted you yesterday and said, is this something you worry about? Is there anything in his mechanics that you see? So what do you see when you see Paul Skenes from an injury potential standpoint?
So with him, so one thing early on when I saw a little bit of the LSU time and when they signed him, and what I thought was kind of contributing to some of the arm stuff in the minors where they shut him down immediately was he was leaning forward a little too much, getting the elbow a little too high, and then when in the middle of his delivery. I don't see that as much anymore. I see it a much more central balance delivery. I see him in a great position. I think it's actually a great thing that he's really big, but he gets into really good ranges. So one thing you have to understand is while being big can be detrimental, being small definitely is. Being small and trying to pitch on a Paul Skenes kind of level, throwing 100 miles an hour every time, is a lot of stress on your body. It is a lot more helpful to be big. You can take a lot more damage, right? You can throw a lot more pitches if you have bigger muscles and bigger tendons and ligaments to be able to take those pitches. I see him as a big, strong man who is prepared more than almost anybody in baseball to be able to throw on that level consistently. And that's the one thing I do like about him is he's got the frame to be able to sit there and I think be able to take that repeated pitch over and over again.
Almost like he's built for longevity. And I'm not talking in terms of going deep into games. I'm talking deep into a career when you're that size.
I believe so. And I mean, if anybody's been able to do it, be able to do it, it's somebody with that frame and stuff and be able to handle it. And again, if it's his worst outing of his career, it's a pretty dang good career so far. Like 12-4, 2.14 ERA. That didn't really damage his ERA too much.
No, we only have about 20 seconds here. Go ahead, Sam.
I got another question, and we got to get back to Paul Skenes on the other side of the break. But just broad spectrum, concern, yes or no, because he gave up those runs to the Cardinals?
Not at all.
No. Why? Well, I mean, like I said, we're watching just to see if anybody can hit him. That's a testament to how good he is his starts are must-watch TV because we just want to see if anybody can hit him. We're coming back more with David Aardsma. We're talking Major League Baseball on a Thursday Sports Wrap. Welcome back to the show. Thursday edition of Sports Wrap, and that means we're talking baseball with our good friend David Aardsma, former big league reliever. Clint Hurdle had some nice things to say about you when we had him on the show.
Nice.
Yeah. I think they were off the air, though. I don't think he said it on the air. So it was smart. Off the air. Yeah.
It's a good career move.
Or he said he remembered you. I don't know if he said you were great, but he said he remembered you. It's like when I used to walk by in the halls at Sirius and people would be like, "Oh, I heard your show." But they wouldn't say like I liked it. They just said they heard it. And I'd be like, yeah, and?
It's on air. Good job.
Yeah, thanks. Great. So anyway, Sam, go ahead. You had a question for David you wanted to ask.
David, we're just wrapping up this Paul Skenes discussion. I mean, we talked about him a lot in the last segment, but it brought a question to my mind because obviously one of the, I feel, underreported stories with Paul Skenes specifically this offseason was that he kind of started to tinker with the splinker, the splitter sinker that he throws, and he wanted to mix in a cutter to work off of that nasty slider that he throws, or a hybrid between a cutter and a slider. And then obviously he comes out and does this in his third start of the season. David, my question is, did you ever in an offseason try to tinker with your arsenal? If so, what? And how did that affect you going into the season?
Yeah, so right now, right, okay, so he's got a four-seamer, split finger, a changeup, a sweeper, a slider, sinker, curveball. Come on. Like, I get it. Last year he
even enough buttons on the pitch come for that?
Right. He's great. He's becoming Daisuke Matsuzaka, who had 17 pitches and couldn't throw any of them consistently, and he sucked. Like, really?
So there's a lot to be said for being simple and being really damn good at what you do. Like, he's incredible talent, and you see it explosive. You see he can do all this stuff. At some point, just throw 3-4 pitches. Throw 4 and be so good at those 4 that it's every time you go through a bullpen, you're just working on too many things. And that sometimes the ability to be able to do it doesn't mean you should. Right. And there's only one pitcher I've ever seen that be able to do that in the middle of a game and just make up a pitch as Felix Hernandez. And we would do that in bullpens. We would move his hand around, and then he would just throw it, and we'd see what happens. Because he could do that. At the same time, when he got into a game, it was fastball, slider, changeup. That's it. Like, basically, that was it. And he would just be so good at it. So, to me, if I was anything, say, just simplify your arsenal and get really good at it. But yes, you're always tinkering and messing around. But for me, as a closer, fastball, slider, split, and I tried to make those as great as possible. I wanted to introduce a curveball, but it started changing how I threw the other stuff, so stop messing around with it. I can still throw it. I threw it in a game once, but stop tinkering, dude. Just be so dominant with 4. That's all you need, and hitters don't know what's coming. I mean, there's big league pitchers that had 2 pitches. You know, just be really, really damn.
There was
good.
a really
Stop
good
tinkering.
Closer who had just basically 1 pitch.
One, and, a lot of people. I mean, Mariano did throw a sinker, and he would throw it every now and then. But at the end of the day, just get really good at like 3 pitches.
Yeah.
Everyone's gonna be scared of you, so just be good at 3.
By the way, speaking of the Yankees, Max Fried, big start yesterday for them. 7 innings, shutout ball against the Tigers team that was playing well. Had won 6 straight. Talk about the importance for him. New team, coming out and getting off to a good start early on.
Without a doubt, and that's the thing, especially Max Fried. With one thing with him, with injuries and not just being consistently on the field as much as his talent should be on the field. That Tigers team, like if you go back, they were the hottest team in baseball, or second best record in baseball over the last 50 games. Something like that. It's absolutely incredible what they've done. So if you go back and having an outing like that is absolutely important in a matchup like that. They're going to be a good team. No Tigers are obviously what they did last year. So Fried just getting that under his belt, Yankees getting that good win, especially after losing the day before that too. So it's absolutely imperative to have. You got to have outings like that from your ace. That's what ace type of outings should look like.
Got to worry about that rotation.
4-3 win is awesome.
But David, you got to worry about that rotation.
I'll say this: I'm worried about the rotation less than I'm worried about some other teams.
Of course, but this is the Yankees. I mean, they're supposed to have a great rotation, and a couple of guys go down, and now it feels like it's kind of Swiss cheese here.
Well, it's Swiss cheese. They're throwing some stuff together. Like Carlos Carrasco, at this point should
Sam
not
loves
be starting
Carlos.
games.
Sam loves Carlos Carrasco.
Cookie's a great guy, one of the best. He should be starting games for the Bronx. He should not be starting games in the pinstripes at that 38 years old right now. He just should not be, and that's the hard part. Like Marcus Stroman, should not be starting games for you right now.
Really? You don't even think he could be a 5th guy in a rotation?
Not for the Yankees. He's a great fifth.
Hang on, I'm getting a call.
When your
the
fifth
Scranton Rail
hurt.
Riders are on line one. They want Stroman and they want Carrasco next week.
I'll say this. The Yankees did not, Marcus Stroman did not expect him to be pitching in that rotation at the beginning of this year. And that's the hard part. That's where they're at. That's a frustrating spot with where the Yankees are in this point of the season, is that they got Cookie Carrasco and Marcus Stroman starting games, important games.
Sam,
and that's tough.
Sam, we got that awkward 45 seconds here of just staring at each other because we don't have enough time to ask anything significant.
Wait, I have my silly question of the week. David, everyone's taking their first road trips this week. What was the best part of your first big league road trip?
Best part of my first big league road trip was going out and having to pay for dinner. Having to go out, like the reliever dinner, the guys going, or getting that rookie and he doesn't understand, like, hey, we're gonna play the credit card game and it's going to be you. Somehow magically the waitress picked your credit card. Enjoy that one, buddy.
We're out of time. David, always appreciate you, my friend. Feel better.
This is great. At the end of the day, thanks for having me on.
Coming up in 10 minutes, we wrap it up with some odds and ends. Something fun for something to consider today. Sam Yarnell. You're a little younger than me, as we've often said on the show. Just a scooch. He's young enough to be my son, which is still kind of weird to me. It's kind of creepy.
That's a young son that you would have been having.
No, I'm 40. You're half my age. That's not young. I would have been 24.
Let me tell you this right now, brother. I am not thinking about having a kid for years. So if you were having a kid at my age, that would have been pretty young.
That's good for all of us, by the way. We don't need you procreating and adding to the pool here. So who would even? Never mind. I was gonna just bring up a totally different topic and say, who would even want to bring a kid into the world right now? Seriously.
What I was thinking.
See, we were both thinking the same thing. There you go. Great minds. So something to consider. I was watching the par 3 I get such a kick out of watching the par 3 contest. Me and Scott Van Pelt. We love watching the par 3 contest because you've got these golfers out there the day before arguably the biggest tournament of the year and of their lives in some cases. And they've got their wife and their kids. It's like bring your kid to work day sort of thing. And it's just the Masters does it right. They do. There's just no getting around that. For all of its flaws and its faults and things in the past that people will want to talk about, from an event standpoint, they just do it right. Condoleezza Rice was out there. I saw her on a bunch of the tee boxes yesterday, walking around the course because I guess she's a member over there at Augusta National. And I'm watching.
She's the first woman member, I believe.
Yeah.
She's either the first woman member or the first minority member.
Okay. Well, I'm watching yesterday, and I'm saying, man, I there's not a lot in my life that I'm like dying to still go and watch, because if people don't watch the show, they know. I don't go to a ton of live sporting events these days. Like I went to the Las Vegas NASCAR race. It's the first thing I've attended since I moved here in August. I live in a city with an NFL team. I could go to any NFL game I want here, with a press credential. I don't go. There's not a lot of things left that I want to see. But the Masters is probably one of, if not the event, Sam, that I would like to see. So it got me to thinking. And I'm going to invite some audience participation. I don't generally do this on the show. I don't, because it makes me harken back to my radio days of call, and tell me your thoughts. Our handles are on the screen for the show on X, at the back page, at Sam_Yarnell. I'm curious, if you get one event that you've never been to, if you get one sporting event that you've never been to, and you have the opportunity to go see it, you only get one. It's like your death row meal. What would your death row meal be? It's one of those questions, but for sports. What are you going to see, Sam? If you get one sporting event left in your life to see, what are you going to watch?
Yeah, so I'm very fortunate that this is a hard question for me to answer, being half of Jason's age, and having already been to the World Series, and the Super Bowl, and knowing people who have been to the Masters in Augusta. It took me a second to come up with it, but I think I got a good answer.
All right.
The Olympics. The Olympics is my answer. Because, well, it's always in a really cool city. I don't think it would be maybe my dream to go when it's in America, but like
that's
in another
that's
country,
going to be the easiest one to go see is LA.
I know. But I'd like to go see one overseas. And I think that the cool thing about the Olympics is like even more so than these super international sports, these sports that are now dominated by international talent, your baseball, your soccer. Maybe the World Cup is comparable. Maybe the World Cup's up there. But you really never get such a melting pot of different cultures. And I think that's so cool. And even in soccer, quite frankly, you're not at the World Cup, you don't have near as many countries represented as the Olympics. So I think as someone who considers themselves appreciative of culture, the Olympics is the one for me because I just love to see all those different people from all those different corners of the world and be able to interact with them all.
The Masters would probably be at the top. I'll take the Olympics in Los Angeles, although I've heard if you go as media.
LA?
Yeah. I'll take that. I would take that just for the experience of the Olympics. Because
Japan would be so cool.
Japan would be cool, and we were supposed to do our honeymoon in Tokyo, so trust me, Tokyo is a place I'm dying to go to. I'll give you another one, and it's high on my bucket list, and I will do it, hopefully in the next few years, the Australian Open. Melbourne. Because it's the combination of obviously being a major, but going to Australia would be one that I would like to go see. I honestly, if I could get to all the tennis majors, I've been to the U.S. Open. I would love to go Roland Garros. I'd love to go to the All England Tennis Club. That would probably be it. But the Masters might be the one. Thing is, I'm not a huge fan of walking golf courses. I know. But to go to the Masters, you got to walk the course. Like when I go cover golf events for the media, I go and look at a few holes, and then I'm sitting in the media room. Like I don't walk the entire course. I'm not that guy.
The tough thing for the Masters about me is being a very online person and being a 24-year-old.
Oh yeah.
I don't know about being away from my phone for 9-10 hours in a day.
It's very true. But I want to know what you guys think at home. Send us your thoughts at the back page at Sam_Yarnell. You get one sports event to go watch. What is it? Maybe we'll read some of them on the air tomorrow. We're coming back with more Sports Wrap. Odds and Ends wraps it up next. Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday, and that means Robert Littal will be here, founder of Black Sports Online. Talk about some of the top stories of the week with him. What's he think of Stephen A. Smith running for president? He's talking about it. So we'll get into that. Tino Patino will be here because it's a NASCAR Friday. Preview this week's race in Bristol with him. If you have not done so yet, make sure to check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Tons of content there. Clips from the show, sometimes bonus clips, things that we sometimes run out of time during conversations, and we do it off the air that you don't see it on TV. We put it on there. Go and check that out. Sometimes YouTube shorts that we put up from big sporting events or news that breaks after our recording window has closed. We do that as well. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast is also available on YouTube. It's also available on Spotify. You can watch the show on Spotify. There's so many different ways to consume this show. Podcast also available, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, you name it. Anywhere you get a podcast, go and subscribe. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Sam Yarnell, as we watch the Masters, as you certainly are watching the Masters, We are once again reminded when we get to see golf come together for the four majors. You know, when you see a John Rahm and a Bubba Watson and Bryson DeChambeau and Phil Mickelson and all these guys playing together, it reminds you of what we used to have on the PGA Tour, but have no longer. And there was a lot of hope that there would be some sort of reconciliation and that we'd see these two sides come together. When 2 years ago, there was a deal announced between the PGA Tour and LIV, a tentative deal to bring the two sides together. Well, it hasn't happened yet. And from comments we've seen from John Rahm before this tournament started and comments we're seeing today from Bubba Watson as this tournament begins, the first major of the season, it doesn't sound like we're anywhere near a deal happening. And I talked about this with Ryan Ballingy on the show yesterday, and he said, look, the PGA Tour is getting more and more leverage every day. Their ratings are good. They have money. They've already implemented changes. And LIV is just this fledgling tour with some stars on it, but no real interest being generated. And it starts to feel like it's only a matter of time before the Saudis pack it in and the PGA Tour goes it without their money. And then you've got these guys on the LIV Tour groveling back to the PGA Tour to try and get membership again.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be a good thing for golf. As crazy as that sounds, I really do think so.
I agree.
Here's why. So, like, golf's peak in popularity over the last, like, decade, maybe not decade because you got the 2019 Masters in there, but, like, since the 2019 Masters, golf's peak in popularity was the freaking LIV Golf PGA split. And when you and I were sitting on this show 18 months ago talking about the LIV Golf PGA split, we were like, oh, is this the end of golf? This is going to be so bad for golf. This is the worst thing for golf. It really is.
Can you do that again?
In reality, well, at the time, maybe it was.
Can you do that again?
But very wrong. Very wrong. Because here's the thing. I think we've reached a juncture now where something that we always thought to be true is coming to fruition, and that is the oil money's drying up, right? The money from Saudi Arabia is obviously not always going to be there because they're spending a ridiculous amount of money on sports across the board. So we're approaching a, do your business or remove yourself from the bathroom moment. When that all comes together, we're kind of on a crash course for at some point down the road, obviously not now, all these players coming back. And when they do, Jason, do you know how good the ratings are going to be for the PGA Tour?
I agree.
They're going to be incredible.
Yeah, I agree with you. And he may have done it by accident, but Jay Monahan's going to come out of this thing looking really rosy when all is said and done. And he stepped in it. And he's going to wind up getting lucky because that strategic group came in and put in, $1 billion+, none of which has been spent, according to Ryan Ballingy. PGA Tour is positioned really well right now. They're in the catbird seat. Real quick, in the final minute here, Justin Fields says he learned something by not playing with the Steelers last year and being stuck on the bench behind Russell Wilson. Says he has no animosity, and I kind of believe him when he says it. And that he's ready to go for the Jets this year, and he will have Alan Lazard to throw the football to because Lazard has come back to the team as their 17th receiver or whatever it is. That's all the Jets news we have for today.
Yeah, Alan Lazard gets really lucky that the checks are going to clear for another year. I mean, really, when we're talking about Hall of Fame bag getters, that guy might be up on that list after this most recent news. Listen, the Justin Fields thing taught me one thing, and it was that I was exactly right when I said what I suspected about last year's Steelers. Mike Tomlin promised Russell Wilson that starting job, and no matter how Justin Fields performed, he knew it was going to Russell Wilson. That's what that quote should show you.
Sam's I told you so. Right at the buzzer. We're out of time. Thank you to our man David Aardsma for stopping by. Thanks to you, Sam. Tomorrow, Robert Littell Patino, who knows what else does it for us. See you back here on Friday for more Sports Wrap.